Hello, Matthew Grant here. Thanks for taking a break from whatever you're up to before you plugged in to join me for this week's episode. Now, Verisk is one of the most well-known groups providing technology across a whole range of insurance applications and beyond. They've made a number of acquisitions over the last few years, joining together different tools and data across the insurance value chain, and no doubt there are going to be more coming. We've been delighted to have them as a member of InsTech London, and for this episode, I'm talking to Mark Anquillare, Chief Operating Officer of Verisk, to learn more about the company's plans and approaches. Mark, it's fantastic to have you joining us today. You, like everybody else, but I think given your role at Verisk, have got a massive amount going on. Now, you've been at Verisk for, I think, 27 years. You're Chief Operating Officer now. You were CFO before that. So you've seen the company go through a pretty extraordinary set of changes over those years. So I'm really looking forward to learning a bit more about that, but also a bit more about what's happening just now. So I guess just to kick things off, given that we're all squirreled away in our homes just now or somewhere else. I mean, how are you personally getting on with the isolation or the home stay just now?
Well, thanks for asking. Obviously, like everyone else, we prefer to be outside and interact with people, but everything's going extremely well. From a Verisk perspective, we have two primary goals. We're making sure that we're focused on the well-being of our employees, and we're trying to maintain great customer service. So those two things, keep me very much focused, and I think we're up and running and doing an effective job on both fronts.
Yeah, good. I mean, I'm guessing as a technology company, you certainly are familiar with how to use technology. This is probably putting a bit of a stress on everybody's systems. But any sort of specific lessons that you would share about how to work effectively in times like this?
Well, I think what has become particularly important is we've always talked about over the years doing tabletop testing of business continuity plans. So this has become a very important time for that testing and execution of that. And two, the way the industry has moved, and not just the industry, but many industries has moved to, large AWS type of offsite installs has created the opportunity to scale up businesses, maintain scalability as well as availability. So from a technology standpoint, I think that direction has been good for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's certainly, things are the hardest now, but they would have been a lot harder if we hadn't been able to run technology remotely and not have to sort of physically get into servers and fiddle around with them. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the Verisk platform and what you're doing around data and analytical companies. So perhaps it'd be helpful just to understand a little bit about, to the extent you're willing to share this, what's the strategy of the business been over the last few years? You've been making a lot of acquisitions. It looks like you're trying to join up the dots through the workflow, but it'd be helpful to hear it directly from you as to how you think about the future of insurance and data and analytics.
So first of all, from a Verisk perspective, we are looking at the entire life cycle of the insurance transaction. So whether it starts at the beginning with pricing and selection of risk, we have a lot of ISO products that are focused on that. As we get into thinking about insurance and reinsurance around extreme events, our ARR extreme event models are kind of key to the industry. We do a lot of things around claims as you think about fraud detection and property repair estimates. And then finally, a lot of the underlying software as it relates to our SQL solutions. So what we've been attempting to do is, one, service our customers across that entire ecosystem. But key to that, I did use the word ecosystem intentionally. We firmly believe that insurers have and want the ability to seamlessly integrate with their applications and other third parties. So we've been attempting to try to take and interconnect that ecosystem in a way that they have the ability to, through APIs and microservices, use the solutions that are best for them and be seamlessly integrated. And along that life cycle, we've tried to insert data and analytics to help them with their pricing, their selection of risks, the decisions they make generally. And that's been our goal. We have always been focused on a few key strategic levers. One, we always are looking for some proprietary type of data that would be unique and helpful. We've always attempted to be deeply embedded to help our customers with those key decisions. We've always tried to make sure that we have experts along the way. We want to make sure we understand the problem before we come up with a solution. And we always like to try to think that we're innovative and being out there first to try to be creative around problem solving. I would tell you that that's generally the theme across Verisk and the things that we try to do long term.
Yeah, I mean, and they probably would also be very similar to a successful early stage company. And we'll come back during this discussion. I'd be interested just to hear how you encourage innovation at the sort of in an organization your size. But just actually, for those that don't know Verisk, how big are you? What sort of metrics you got around revenue and number of people?
Sure. So we are an S&P 500 company. I like to reference that we're worth about $25 billion. That would have been a number probably closer before the current stock market situation. And we do, over $2 billion of revenue, with the majority of that being in the insurance sector. We are also focused in on the cards or payment space. So think about debit and credit cards, having big banks work with pricing there, as well as we do work with oil and gas companies around underground assets and the reserves associated with oil and gas investment. We have some strategic information for their decision making. So that's the kind of the breadth of the verticals. Obviously, we're going to focus on insurance today. I just wanted to share, though, the breadth of our offerings.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. Actually, just on that oil and gas one in particular, because a lot of larger companies tend to self-insure. Do you also help them with some of the tools that you're providing to insurance companies? Are you seeing interest from some of the large corporations in the oil and gas space where they would use those for their captives or some other way of risk management that's sort of maybe one step removed from how people might normally think about insurance?
So if you were to think about it this way, we are providing some wonderful information to those oil and gas companies so they can make decisions about where they're going to explore and discover. And as a part of that information, we've used that data to help insurers with underwriting those type of risks. So all of the property characteristics about onshore and offshore wells, the characteristics about the risks of those type of businesses are now included in a energy underwriting platform that we've created, trying to cross-purpose some of the information we have in the various verticals.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a really interesting theme we're seeing more, I'm sure you are, more broadly in this insurance space, which is, if you go back a couple of years ago, a lot of focus was on companies starting up from scratch. Now we're seeing organizations that have got access to data and actually working with clients coming into the insurance industry and recognizing the value of that data. So just sort of on that theme about third parties, and you're talking earlier on about creating seamless integration, and you want to be able to assist the entire life cycle. Is that through various companies, or do you also sort of actively seek out partners to work with that can integrate into your systems or easily integrate into the workflow when people are using some of your products?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think what we want to be is a participant in this overall ecosystem. So for us to be most effective helping our customers, they want choices as well. So providing a platform where they have access to third parties, others that can be on that platform and help them in certain or specific ways, we're always open to that. So we have a pretty wide range of partners that are on the various platforms, whether it's on the claim side around repairing a home, as an example. There's a lot of different specialists involved in repairing a home, and they're on the platform to help. Or if you were to think of some of the solutions we have that relate to how we develop loss costs and wordings, there's a lot of policy admin vendors, as an example, or insurance software vendors that would value and can distribute that information. So our customers are looking to access our information through those third parties. So I think we try to be very open to that type of interaction and interconnectivity with partners.
Good. And so it sounds like the way you're describing it, you don't have to be exclusive with various. Those companies could sell directly, or they could sell through other channels.
That would be true, yes.
Good. So, obviously we're all talking about the pandemic just now. It's kind of a weird situation, just our day-to-day lives, but also not knowing how that's going to play out. Who knows how things will have changed when we actually go live with this recording. But had we been talking a couple of months ago, what would you have seen being the macro themes when your companies and people are thinking about risk? And I sort of use that in the broader sense because insurance has got a very vital role to play. But as we both know, a lot of the risk out there is not covered by insurance. So just interested to see your personal views on this, and anything that sort of Verisk is looking at beyond how we might traditionally have thought about risk and analytics.
I think we see three major themes out in the insurance industry. One, I think we've been talking about it, and we'll talk some more about it. It's data analytics. Everyone has a team. Everyone's looking to have and leverage what has been the advances of AI and machine learning. So from a data analytics perspective, they are intently interested to make sure they keep up, if not stay ahead, with regard to how they process a claim, how they handle fraud, and a lot of it's on the pricing, segmentation, and marketing side of things. So data analytics is one key theme. The second, which is probably becoming increasingly more important in kind of today's environment, is the digital engagement. Our policyholders are very much interested in having that same experience they get when they go online. And if they're on Amazon, as an example, they don't have to worry about getting that gift tomorrow in the right size and in the right color. They expect that type of service as they come on to get an insurance quote or as they process a claim. They're willing to be involved. They want to be involved. They want it quick. And that digital engagement is very important to the insurance industry as a whole. And then finally, the third one is a little broader, but it really relates to just generally automation. There's been a heavy investment in InsurTech, but back office systems in general, because everyone's looking to automate with the idea that they would hopefully be able to save some costs and be more efficient. But they're also trying to kind of counter what is a graying workforce. In the United States, as an example, there's about 2.4 million people working in the insurance industry, and close to 500,000 are due for retirement over the next 2-3 years. So there needs to be a transition to these expert systems so that we can replicate some of that expertise. And that comes in the form of, what can I do from a claims perspective? We have a term called right touch claims adjusting. What that means is, if it's a really thorny claim, we're going to put our experts on it. But what we're trying to do is, for those high frequency, low severity claims, how can we automate that so it's almost no touch? From the standpoint of underwriting, the focus is on flow underwriting. How can I handle it in a way that I really need very little manual intervention? Am I comfortable and confident in the data that's being provided so that I can underwrite this claim? If it's a more challenging and higher risk claim, then I bring that experts in. So that's the theme of automation that we've seen. And those three themes have been very much the focus of how we've operated, where we focused our innovation and our product development over the last several years.
Yeah, that's the last point about triaging the decision, whether it's claims or underwriting. I think it's a theme we're coming out. I think a few of the early stage companies who sort of claimed that they were going to replace the underwriter or replace the claims handler found it rather difficult to get meetings with insurance companies, but now they've sort of shifted it to making it more efficient. There's a lot of people that are sort of recognizing that. But I just want to pick up on that term InsurTech, which my sense is the risk of getting a little bit of InsurTech fatigue in the industry, particularly those who tend to sort of see it through the lens of maybe some people coming in from outside the industry and not really understanding some of the what the industry had already done, and narrowing it down a bit. There are obviously lots of other things about insurance and technology that are very worthwhile, as well as some of those early stage companies doing some great things. I mean, do you at Verisk have as a definition, or you personally have a definition of what InsurTech actually is when you talk about it or refer to companies doing it?
Well, we don't think of InsurTech as a business type. We think of InsurTech as a capability, and it really is a capability that is looking to try to make a process more effective and more efficient. And I think of many of these startups clearly as InsurTechs, but at the same time, I think of Verisk as an InsurTech. I kind of classify or try to differentiate the types of InsurTechs. There are those that are trying to actually be on the insurance or insurance distribution side of things. So they're going to be an underwriter. They are attempting to maybe segue through as a managing general agent. That is a more of a distribution play. And honestly, if you were to think about the way disruption has historically taken place with a lot of, the upstart unicorns, it has been direct to consumers. So whether it's an Uber as an example, or, back to, the travel industry when Expedia and others have taken off, there's been a lot of dollars from the standpoint of PE and private equity focused on that front end of the system. There's also a lot of service providers. Maybe those are more competitive in some cases to Verisk. But I think what we've seen just generally is that push on InsurTech has caused a lot of large and very sophisticated insurers to become more focused on technology, more focused on digital engagement, making sure that they aren't disintermediated from their policyholders, from their customers. So, that InsurTech wave, I think, has driven the industry in a very positive and good direction. And there's significant investment across the board on that front.
Yeah, no, I tend to agree with your sort of characterization of InsurTech. Andy Yeoman, who, if you know, is the founder and CEO of Consurus, who do marine underwriting. And we had a great phrase when I was talking to him recently, which is every company is InsurTech. Just some companies have got bad tech, and I think we need to just recognize that ultimately it's, as you've said, it's the sort of technology and the understanding of the business that's important. So I just want to come back a little bit to the pandemic at where we are just now, and what that means for you from a sort of data and analytics perspective. And are you seeing any shifts in how companies are sort of using you to perform analytics? And is it sort of driving anything faster than might have been happening otherwise?
So, I think the pandemic is going to do a few things. I think at the end of the day, I hope this is a quick opportunity to, for the most part, be more socially connected again. And I think people are appreciating others. And I hope that kind of creates what is a better world. I think we're going to also be less tied to the office in the future. I think there's going to be folks that are very comfortable. I think people are very productive at home. So that probably leads to a more digitally connected world, whether it's some of the social media, whether it's some of the tools like, Zoom and Skype and Teams, that has made life easier. But that theme of digital connection and digital enablement is one that I think is going to be prevalent in the industry. So what we're seeing right now is insurers are very interested to continue on. So if I have a policy that's renewing or even some new business, I need to somehow get out, if it's a commercial building or if it's a highly valued property, I need to see and inspect it. And tools that use and access policyholder information in combination with some type of video collaboration, pictures, all of that has become very important to insurers, not just on the underwriting side, but also to process claims. So what we have is a few platforms to kind of virtually allow you to adjudicate a claim. We have a similar platform that allows you to kind of virtually inspect a home, having the policyholder do some of the work. And we've been attempting to provide that solution free during this time. So there's been quite a bit of uptake on that because people want to make sure they carry on business. So that has been a focus. The other thing that, as you might imagine, people are concerned about fraud. And unfortunately, bad actors take advantage of certain things. So we have been tightening some of the algorithms we have, some of the solutions we have around fraud to help those like the banks and those in the payment space, as well as on the insurance side, detect and fight fraud. We are also obviously focused on extreme events and extreme event modeling. So we've spent quite a bit of time with not just insurers, but corporates and some other major institutions on our pandemic model and trying to focus them on, what's it look like, what's the future look like, so that they can, modify their business to reflect it. So those are, some of the major themes that we've been seeing become more relevant during this time. And I hope we return to normalcy, but at the same time, I think some of the ways we have found to be more productive and more effective and more efficient from home, I think will drive automation in the future. And that theme is probably one that will be accelerated.
Yeah, I think it's interesting, isn't it? I mean, also, some people actually were set up reasonably well to work remotely. A lot of those early stage companies, were used to working from home or working from shared workspaces. But I think the shift we'll see will be the people that were less used to doing that, relied on the office, relied on the IT department to get their comms sorted out. And actually, I guess a combination of pain and need will mean that that's going to spread a bit more broadly through the working population. And I'm sure you're very close to what's happening at Lloyd's with PPL and the future of Lloyd's. And I think that's a really interesting test case. Fortunately, they had started rolling this out. But is there anything you're specifically involved with at Lloyd's you can talk about that was already happening and maybe is being accelerated by this move to remote working?
Well, we've had a fine relationship with Lloyd's. We've been equally involved in some of those automation efforts, including on the cover holder side. The cover holder workbench is a solution that we've partnered with Lloyd's on. So we're hopeful that creates automation and and efficiencies for those syndicates and cover holders involved. And I think what we've also seen is, from a Lloyd's perspective in general, the future at Lloyd's is kind of a push towards this automation. I guess what I sometimes point to when I think about different industries is the world of buying and selling equities used to be a very manual process, one where you'd call your broker would call the trading desk would ultimately, kind of execute a trade, and you true up dollars probably weeks later. And obviously, today that you can do that within seconds, and the overall cost is much reduced. So that theme, I think, very nicely parallels some of the things that could happen in the insurance industry over time with that, interconnected ecosystem. And I think Lloyd's is pointing in that direction. I hope we continue to be able to partner with them to drive some of that change. I think it's for the good.
Yeah, no, I think it's certainly an area people are looking at, comparing what's happening or been happening in the capital markets. I guess the challenge up until now has been mostly insurance as an annual renewal, so there's not quite the urgency where you get of people trading equities or bonds or derivatives, and they're doing it multiple times, maybe even in one day. So I think the good thing is the technology is there to be able to do that. There's a recognition it can work in another industry that probably 10, 15 years ago looked a bit like insurance does today. I think we need something like this current shock to the system to drive it. So yeah, as you say, once everyone gets back to work, it would be interesting to see whether these things continue or sort of fall back into the old bad habits. But Mark, I'd like to ask you a question about how you within Verisk encourage innovation. I mean, you can talk a bit about the company structure, but my understanding is you're generally a group company, and you allow your individual companies to maintain a certain amount of independence, but you encourage cross-fertilization of ideas. But can you talk about some of the ways you create that innovation, whether it's at individual companies or between the companies or at group level?
I think the one thing we try to talk about frequently within Verisk, and you're right, we've acquired many companies. At the same time, we wanted them to feel like they're a part of Verisk as well as their own entity. But innovation is, in my mind, cultural. We need to make sure that everyone feels like every day they're focused on the customer. What can we do better? What can we improve? And how do we create innovation from that? And innovation doesn't have to be this, invention, this wonderful new application. It could be, systematic changes and features and enhancements that's constantly improving. And over time, it evolves in a way that is innovative. It also could be in the form of internal processes that are improved. How can I be more effective? How can I be more efficient? Focused on the customer. So, we do some work around Lean Six Sigma that's focused in that way. So we try to make sure every employee is focused on innovation, or feels it's a part of their job, and being close to the customer is key to that. What we also try to do is formally organize, what I refer to as a big ideas event each year, so that we have additional funding set aside. We are trying to get people to come forth with ideas, and we are in essence funding groups as if they're out of their garage. They are going to work with that money to develop this new idea. Our theme is you really need to be successful by partnering with customers. So we always look to try to have some partners on board. And we work off of a model that's kind of a lean model that's focused on the minimal viable product. Let's get something in the hands of those customers. Let's get feedback, and let's see if they are interested in enough so that they can proceed forward. So I think, that helps our project teams feel like these small, agile businesses and garages. And that's the type of cultural thing we've attempted to do over time, in kind of fostering some innovation and new solutions across the entities and enterprise. And to your point, we have acquired some companies. What we try to tell them is, we want to help you. We want you to help us. So to the extent that there's some capability, there's some code, we very much protect and shepherd data we have, but to the extent that we're able to use it, come walk the aisles of Verisk and look in the shelves and see if there's something that will help you become more effective, so that you can be creative and better in front of your customer. And I think that's what we've tried to, kind of evolve towards over the years.
Yeah, that's a nice analogy. Although I guess you'll need to give your prospective customers some virtual reality headsets to be able to walk the aisles of Verisk the next few months. Well, that was really helpful. Just one thing I want to pick up on, and then I think we'll let you get back to your day job. Earlier on at the beginning, you were mentioning you that whole life cycle you want to fill in a sense with the technology. And so, for anybody listening that might have an idea that they think is pretty intriguing, and I'd want to talk to you about it. Is there any areas you could talk about where there's still really hard problems to solve and you're still looking for solutions?
So maybe this is just the way I would refer to as InsurTech has evolved. Most of the money has come into the front end of the system. It's probably been more or less focused on what I would refer to as distribution. So I think what we're always looking for is new data as it relates to pricing and segmentation. And every day, new data is becoming available. The beauty of what's happening in the industry around AI and machine learning, that's been around for decades. I mean, the algorithms have been there for decades. But the fact that now there's so much more data available, and to be honest, you're able to process it at speeds you never were able to in the past at such a low cost. Think of Moore's Law. All of that is easy to store. Everything's able to come in to one data lake. So being able to bring all that data together and see if we can find lift in that data, I think is always intriguing, and certainly appeals to us as kind of the data side of Verisk. The other thing that I think we realized that maybe there's been a little less investment on the claim side. We continue to put a lot of effort into fraud detection. I don't know if that is quite as high on the radar as I think it should be. So fraud and fraud detection is a key for us. We think there should be more there. And what I'll refer to is this world of I'll say it. It's one touch. Some people use one touch. We use smart touch claims adjudication. What we're trying to do is be very automated in the way we pay those high frequency, low severity claims. Those type of things, I think, will be more cost effective and improve the overall processes. So those are a couple areas that I think we're particularly interested to continue to invest. So hopefully that's responsive to the question.
Yeah, no, it's really helpful. I mean, that point about the two things there, I guess the data itself, I mean, I suspect it's going to be decades, if ever, before the insurance industry feels it has enough data or enough of the right kind of data. So I think it's always good to hear that there's an appetite for that. And the second one, claims, I completely agree with what you're saying in the sense that it does still seem to feel like it's sort of the poor cousin of insurance. And yes, as one of the chief underwriting officers of a Lloyd's syndicate has pointed out to me, it's a dollar saved in claims, a dollar straight to the bottom line. You can spend money on technology and obviously it helps you and you grow the business. But if you're not paying out claims you shouldn't be paying out, then that's a much faster way to be able to get better margins in the business. So I think it's difficult to do. I think we've seen a lot happening in claims around motor, but it's going to be interesting going forward how that spreads into other areas of business. So finally, Mark, so if anybody wants to contact Verisk with their burning idea, what's the best way into the organization for them?
Well, I'm always happy to take questions and calls. My name's Mark Anquillare, and clearly you can find me on the website. We have some teams that are specifically involved, so any type of email, I'll get it to the right person so that we can have someone reach out if that's of interest, and very much appreciate that question, and always happy to work with others. I think collaboration and partnership is kind of key to how we can make everything better.
Good. Well, we look forward to checking in at some point in the future. Anybody you have come across, and thank you also to you and to Helen for your support for InsTech London. It's really great to get the support from the industry. It allows us to run our events and do the podcasts and just communicate more broadly to the world about what's happening. And also, on that point about early stage companies, it allows us to bring people in that are in their first couple of years and give them free access to what we're doing. And we've been very pleased seeing how some of the people that we've had on stage and talking to us 4 or 5 years ago are now amongst some of the most well-known names in the in that sort of scale-up space. So you're just helping through that as well by keeping that going. So thank you very much. So finally, before we wrap up, is there anything that we haven't talked about or anything you'd like to add to the discussion?
So I just want to wish everyone out there, please be safe, stay healthy. I maintain a very positive attitude about things. I think we're going to better appreciate the social activity and interaction with our fellow friends and colleagues. And at the end of the day, we'll be a stronger, better, and more automated place to work. And I look forward to that. And thank you for the opportunity to speak with you today.
Good. Thank you, Mark. We're going to be putting together a whole series of live digital events with Verisk, and a special mention to Helen Christopher, who is most definitely living up to her title as Global Marketing Manager for Verisk, as we bring together different parts of the business from around the world. We're going to be running these on Bright Talk and also packaging them up and releasing them as part of the InsTech London podcast. Of course, you can find out about all our events, these ones plus others that we find interesting, through our weekly newsletter on Wednesday morning, along with all the other news we think you might find of interest. Genuinely homemade these days. Find out more details at the website and sign up at www.instech.london.